Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to the Whiskey Cove. And on today's episode, we look at Maker's Mark's newest release, BEP, and then we see how it stacks up against some of the favorites from the Whiskey Cove, and also a unique Whiskey Cove blend. Run that video. All right then folks, welcome back. And on today's episode, we look at the newest wood finishing series Maker's Mark release, the BEP, and then we will see how it stacks up against these other two that we have here. But before we get into today's video, if you haven't been over to the Whiskey Cove website, go and check us out, because we have some awesome premium glassware at rock bottom prices. How cheap are they? Well, I implore you, or go and check out Amazon just to see how much these Speyside Tasters and Glencairns cost, and then go and check us out. It includes free shipping as well. Excellent value for money, helps us out here in the channel, just spreading the Whiskey Cove word there. With that being said, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I'll tell you why it's a great time to do that. We are doing a 5,000 subscriber giveaway, and we are doing a total of 6 bottles. We have one donated from Alex, who's a subscriber to the channel, and we've also have an Old Forester barrel strength single barrel. This is the bottle that Alex donated, and we're also going to add in another 4, one for every 500 subscribers to 5,000. We might also already be at 3,500 right now as I'm recording this video, so expect another bottle to be added very shortly, so keep an eye out for that. With that being said, let's get into today's video. So I think what we'll do with these, I think we're gonna blind them, because the Maker's Mark, this one, the BRT-02, when we did the Maker's Mark blind, actually won it. Spoiler alert, this was the winner, which is why we're using that, because this is kind of like the best of the rest. This is the new release, so we'll see how that stacks up against the best of the rest. And then we also, I say this isn't the new release, this is the new release. We'll see how that stacks up, but this is the new release from the Whiskey Cove, I guess. None of my distillate is in there. However, this is a blend of Maker's Marks. What Maker's Marks are they? So this is a blend of every single one of the Maker's Mark wood finishing series. So from RC19, I think it is, up to BEP, equal parts blended together. And they've been sitting in here for about 3 weeks. I know this has been out for a while, but I wanted this to be a part of this blind here as well. Like I said, equal parts, and when I say equal parts, I did eyeball it, so it's not all of it. It might not be equal parts, but as equal parts as the eye can see. There's also like the FA2 and this, the BRT-01, is all of the wood finishing series in this bottle of whiskey. So what we'll do, we'll pour these into glasses, we'll get my wife to mix them up, and then we'll come back and taste through them, and we'll see who is victorious today on this Maker's Mark blind. All right then folks, so at this point in time, I have no idea which whiskey is in which glass. So we're gonna drink through them from your left to your right. We'll nose them, we'll taste them, we'll pick them apart as best we can. We'll pause the video, I will taste back through them, and then we'll come back with an order, just to kind of see which comes up on top. I will say the BRT-02, not only has it been my favorite whiskey from Makers to date, it ranks very highly up in the whiskeys of the year so far. So that is probably the one to beat so far today. However, the Whiskey Cove blend of the Maker's Mark, I haven't tried, I haven't nosed before. So that could be something incredible and something that I'm very excited about. With that being said, let's get into this blind then. So glass number 1 here. And these are all the Whiskey Cove Speyside Taster glasses here. So really nice, excellent nose here. Like a toffee apple note. I guess in America they call them caramel apples, like the apple on a stick with the toffee around. Like nice bright green apple, juicy apple notes with that caramel sweetness. Maybe some maple there as well. Just toastier brown sugar notes across the board. Not really getting any heat on the nose, which is excellent. So it comes across as very approachable. Maybe some fig there as well. Like a dried seeded fruit, like a raisin, a currant, but I think this is leaning more towards a fig there, because figs are generally a little bit more sweeter. Little bit of wood presence there, maybe like a little bit of piney notes, more like a brighter wood. Definitely some oak there as well. Maybe a touch of spice, some cinnamon and like a nutmeg note. Maybe like a Hershey's powdered chocolate, the ones that come in the boxes there, like the milk chocolate, powdered chocolate. Maybe a couple of little earthy notes there as well. Excellent start so far on the nose, that's for sure. Let's go into glass number 1 for the palate. So this first one, as I drank it, definitely got a little bit of spice radiating throughout my mouth. kind of like the peppery, kind of serrano chili type notes there as well. And then it kind of transitioned into, it dries out a little bit. You get some warm, nice sweetness there with the spice in the beginning. Think sweetness, kind of like that maple brown sugar barrel char sweetness. But that sweetness and spice does fall away a little bit, and it definitely dries up a little bit. Some of those oak wood tannins do take over. And that also lends to the mouthfeel. Mouthfeel is very thick in the beginning, but then as the wood takes over, it dries out and kind of clenches the whole mouth there as well. Let's pick it apart even more and go for another taste here. I definitely got right on the back end there like a dusty rick house note, and a beautiful, beautiful barrel char note there as well. Not too much of a barrel char note that you would associate with a toasted whiskey, but it's definitely there. And the proof on all of Maker's Marks is right where I like it to be, right between like the 54 to 56 ABV. Such a perfect ABV for tasting whiskey. It's not too hot, and especially this whiskey, it's not really coming across as very hot. It's coming across a little bit spicy and a little bit dry in parts, but there's just no heat. This is just a very approachable whiskey. Excellent start so far. Let's cleanse our palate and then we will return to move into glass 2. All right, let's get into glass 2 here. And also as well, I'm sorry if I come across in the videos as a little bit too animated. I like talking about whiskey. I love sharing whiskey, and it just gets me a little bit excited. So hopefully you don't mind the bobbing around, the moving around. And I know some folks like more of like a relaxed type vibe, but this is kind of like the vibe of this channel where I'm just really excited, a lot of enthusiasm about the whiskey there. However, glass 2 here. Lots more vanilla in this one. A lot lighter. This was more brown sugar, toffee, caramel. This is more of like an ice cream vanilla sweetness coming through. Some of that kind of apple there as well, but this is more of like an apple pie note. So cinnamon definitely there, the vanilla of an apple pie, and kind of like soft apple notes. And that pastry note there as well. Again, much like glass 1, no real heat coming through on the nose. Maybe a little bit orange zest there as well. You're making your whiskey sour, you're slicing a slice of orange to put in your whiskey sour. You smell the peel as you squeeze it, and it's kind of giving off some of those oily vibes there as well. But yeah, lots more vanilla with this one. Let's go in for a taste, glass 2. So on glass 2, it has the same amount of sweetness that glass 1 has, but it definitely travels a lot more. It's right the way through the whole palate, and it leaves a bit of a residual sweetness on my tongue there as well. The oak tannins don't dry your mouth out like it did in glass 1 here. You can definitely taste an oak note there, but it's just not clenching your mouth as much as this one. I would say that the finish is a lot longer in this, and that probably lends to the sweetness that it is there throughout. The spicier notes die down a lot on the palate. You got a little tingling of cinnamon there on your tongue, but that kind of fell away a little. Let's go in for another taste here. And then on that second passing of glass 2, the wood tannins definitely kicked up a little bit and hit the top of my tongue there as well. And I'm also getting a residual spicy note that's just sitting and hanging out on the palate there as well. That orange oily note definitely continues. I'm not getting as much vanilla on the palate that came across on the nose. There was a lot of sweetened vanilla on the nose. I'm not really getting that on the palate there. I'm getting more of like a citrusy, with a touch of spice, and then some of those kind of oakier notes there as well, tannin notes that are just hitting that top lip there as well, and that beautiful sweetness that's just running through. It is more of like a mapley kind of sweetness on the palate there. Pretty solid start all around from these first 2 glasses. Cleanse the palate and let's move into glass 3. Okay, so with this one, this is very different from these 2. There's definitely a lot of similarities in these first 2. So this lends more of like an Old Forester 1910 or a toasted Mick does. It's given off a lot of those toasted barrel vibes. Kind of like a Rice Krispie cereal bar. That marshmallow and kind of like wheaty note. It's a beautiful nose. Whatever this is has the best nose so far. Getting a lot of that like ice cream vanilla that's coming through there as well. Kind of like some Lucky Charms notes there as well, like the actual charms themselves. So when you scoop it in, like that sugary vanilla sweetness on those. Plenty of barrel jar. And again, like the other two, no real spice or heat coming through on the nose. All right, let's go in for a taste on glass 3 here. So the mouthfeel on glass 3, so rich, so oily. This mouthfeel is fantastic. It does an excellent job of coating just about every taste bud on your palate. Punches with sweet toffee notes. You get like a brick of butterscotch toffee around Christmas time as a kid. You bite into it, you lose a filling, but you get that really nice sweet vanilla toffee note. It has this in abundance. And that barrel char is definitely there. Those marshmallow flavors definitely come through. Every note that was on the nose, I'm getting on the palate there as well. Not very fruit forward at all. I'm struggling to really find any fruit. Maybe some sort of like darker raisin, but this has just been so beautiful on the palate. Let's go in for another taste here. This last glass is just an excellent whiskey. This is what wheated bourbons are all about here. Definitely get like a creme brulee note there as well. It kind of reminds me of a well foolproof store pick that I had before, which is phenomenal. Has a lot of those like brown sugar, molasses, butterscotch, toffee vibes, those darker, sweeter flavors. It does a really great job, and that's an excellent whiskey. So then what we'll do, we'll taste back through these 3, we'll figure out an order, and then we'll come back to you folks at home. All right then folks, welcome back. And with much deliberation, we now have them in an order here. So truth be told, this was by far and away the best whiskey on the table here. However, it was a lot tighter between these 2. This had a better nose. I felt like this had a better finish. I felt like this finish was just a little bit too short and fell off a little bit. However, what finished in 3rd place was glass number 2. It just had a couple of spiky notes there at the front of the palate. And when I say spiky, I mean maybe like a little bit of ethanol, a little bit of graininess that didn't quite kind of balance the palate out, and that's why that finished in last. So let's find out. We have the answer key provided to us today. So glass 2 is going to be A for alpha. Let's see what that is. Interesting. That is going to be 2023 limited release, BEP. Like I said, it had something a little bit spiky in the front palate that I just didn't like. What is the proof on this? There's 55.35%, so again, right in line with a lot of that. And I think the nose on this was just that much better. But however, of course, this is going to win today. But let's find out what came in 2nd place and then ultimately what came in 1st. So then 2nd place was glass number 1 here. And that is going to be B for Bravo. And that is going to be, yeah, I kind of thought that's what it was. The Whiskey Cove came in 2nd. And then the Maker's Mark BRT-02. When I say that's kind of what I expected, I kind of had a good feeling that this is going to be the BRT-02, because this is probably, like I said, the best Makers that I've ever had, and it definitely stood head and shoulders above these 2 here. I was kind of hoping for something special from this, and from this to finish 2nd in front of the BEP was a surprise for me, because like I said, this is kind of like a Frankenstein of the BRT, of the special wood release lineup here. And the nose is pretty solid as well. It doesn't have the barrel char and the darker notes that this has, but it definitely has some really great flavors going for it here. And every time I go back in, the nose definitely gets nicer here. So 3rd place was the BEP. A little bit disappointed, if I'm honest. This is Maker's Mark's last addition to the wood finishing series, and I think this lacked a little bit, if I'm truthfully honest. I'm a big wheated bourbon fan, so I feel like I can give this a good judgment, and I think this kind of let me down a little bit. However, pretty surprised that this was able to stack up against this, but ultimately it was nowhere near close against the BRT-02. Folks at home, if you're watching this and you like wheated bourbons and you kind of like the content that we put out, and you haven't tried this already, you need to get this. Such a great whiskey, and you probably should stock up on it, because this is not coming back. And I think I'm gonna try to find a couple of bottles of this. I think I've seen a few around Colorado, and I'm probably gonna buy 2 or 3, because this keeps falling off all the time. And because this is, like I said, the best Maker's Mark I've ever had, and it definitely stood up to that in today's episode. So with that being said, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel if you like our content, or you want to be in a chance to win in our free giveaway there. So as we drink through the world's whiskey, 1 glass at a time, today was an excellent blind. BRT-02 was today's winner. Cheers. It's just so good.